Hello, this is a video on three-tier client-server architecture. So what are servers and clients? Well, servers are robot-type programs that constantly run and exchange information with remote users. And on the other hand, clients are the programs that access and exchange information with servers. Well, there are a few other terms that we need to talk about here. First one is applications. These are software programs for some functional use, such as for accounting, communications, email, and so on. Databases are sets of interrelated, centrally controlled data files or data stores. And these files may or may not be in one location. They may be dispersed over several computer systems. However, they're all managed centrally by a relational database management system, or RDBMS for short. And an RDBMS is software that controls data storage and retrieval in the databases. So what is three-tier client-server architecture? Well, the first tier is the presentation tier. This creates the views that users see. In other words, it receives input and displays output. The second tier is the application tier, and this processes the logic and makes calculations. The third tier is the database tier, which stores and manages the data. Now, in terms of clients and servers, the first tier represents all the clients. The second and third tiers represent servers, and these can be application servers and database servers. All of these are constantly running programs. Perhaps an easy example of three-tier client-server architecture would be an e-commerce configuration. The presentation tier would contain web browsers, and these web browsers could be on cell phones, iPads, computers, or any other type of mobile device. The application tier would contain all of the code that would process, for example, somebody buying something, which would be shopping cart code. And in the case of Amazon, they probably have many application servers, perhaps several in each country where they do business. The database tier would contain all of the files and the database management system that would contain data for shipping and order processing. Let's move on to something a little bit more complicated. The three-tier SAP R/3 ERP client-server architecture would look something like this. The presentation tier would contain all of the user views, and these views would be created by a software called SAP GUI. GUI stands for Graphical User Interface. The application tier contains all the programs that would have all of the logic and calculations in them, and they are written in a proprietary software language called ABAP. And then the database tier would contain the relational database management system and all of the database files. There are advantages to a three-tier client-server architecture over the old traditional mainframe architecture. The first advantage is that there would be increased efficiency. Each tier has their own function to perform, which spreads out the work over several systems. There's increased security of the data, since the relational database management system provides a single point of access and governs who is retrieving the data and how the data is updated. There's increased scalability up and down, since the structure can run on many different types of hardware and operating systems. And lastly, there's increased flexibility, since this type of architecture can support many types and sizes of businesses.